Now everybody is familiar with the history of the missing definite article from the withdrawal clause. And I'm not going to detain you with that. Now let me just tell you that in the Russian and Chinese version there is no definite article simply because these two languages have no definite article. But those were not official, they were not working languages of the Security Council at the time anyway. Only English and French were the working languages of the Council. Now to be sure, and I think more will be said about this in another presentation, the French version does have the definite article. But we must bear in mind that all the negotiations that preceded the adoption of 242 were based on the English draft and were conducted in English. And it was on the basis of the missing definite article from the draft that the Arabs and the Soviets and their supporters initially opposed 242. So much so that I'm grateful to Dr. Gold for having drawn my attention to this, that on the 21st of November 1967, less than 24 hours before the adoption of 242, Alexei Kosygin, the Soviet premier at the time, sent a very firm letter to Lyndon Johnson, the President of the United States, demanding that the resolution explicitly state that Israel is called upon to withdraw to the positions it held before the Six-Day War. And Lyndon Johnson replied that the text was a balanced one and no changes could be introduced at that stage. The Arabs and the Soviets constantly pestered Lord Caradon in the days before the adoption of the resolution with regard to the missing definite article. They demanded that the resolution say that Israel is called upon to withdraw from all the territories, or alternatively, Israel should withdraw to the positions of the 4th of June 1967. They were rebuffed. And when they tried to interpret through the Soviet Union, India and other members of the Security Council that the resolution as calling for a total withdrawal for Israel, both Caradon and Ambassador Goldberg, the American ambassador to the United Nations at the time, told them that this is not what 242 was about. But I think it's worth recalling here what happened in the British House of Commons 2 years later. The British, as I've said, were the sponsors of 242. And when the British Foreign Secretary in 1969, Michael Stewart, was asked whether the resolution meant that Israel should withdraw from all the territories taken in the late war, he replied to the questioner, "No, sir, that is not the phrase used in the resolution. The resolution speaks of secure and recognized boundaries. Those words must be read concurrently with the statement on withdrawal." And he made a second statement to that effect a couple of weeks later in the House of Commons. And that's the correct way to interpret things. You must read these two provisions concurrently. The withdrawal clause doesn't stand alone. It must be read in conjunction with the secure and recognized boundaries clause. But then